like to call the Finance, Audit, Tendering, and Administration Committee to order at Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023, a little after 3:30. We've got an agenda with the order of business. I'd like to start with item 1, called order. Item 2 is declarations of conflict of interest. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? No, there's no conflict of interest. Item 3 is approval of the agenda. Have a mover for that. Thank you, Councillor McCabe. Seconder, Councillor Drong. So moved. It has been circulated, the minutes, item 4, the adoption of the minutes for March 16th, March 17th, March 21st, and April 5th, 2023. The adoption of those minutes, is there a motion to move for the adoption of the minutes of those, or is there questions on the minutes?
I do have a question.
Okay.
I know we went through these a long time, a lot of hours, and one question jumps out at me. I think Chair McAleer, you had asked, I don't know when, but a question that was, it took me back a bit, so I never really had a chance to answer it fully the way I felt deserves some, background. You had asked what our former DCAO did when he was here, and you mentioned that it wasn't a big issue during the election, that none of your residents had asked you about that, and I've been involved in this now for 4 years, so I sat around the next week or last couple of weeks, and I wanted to put down what this person has done for us. So, the former DCO in Missouri, he was a financial background is what he brought to the table. And council at that time was looking for someone. So, I did some digging, talked to some people, and I just kind of wondered what he did when he was here during his short time. So I have a list of about 10 things that he did, and I may be proven wrong, but I'd like to state, what he did while he was here. So, I'd like to do this before we approve the minutes. So what he did is he worked on, a lot of the pension financial statements for 2 pension plans. He fixed the water and sewer financial statements, fixed the city consolidated financial statements. He identified numerous areas of the city not following policies. He identified improper spending. He identified procurement policy not being followed on major capital projects. He drafted the city TCA policy. He offered to develop and provide seminar to council on the city financial statements, but he was refused. He provided honest and accurate information to committees and council. He identified wrongdoing. He identified MGA non-compliance, and he had developed a plan to update policies. He developed a plan to review and update policies and governance process. He did all this while being the DCAO and doing the job of the finance manager, which was vacant at the time. So this gentleman, he worked hard for a year, and whatever happened between him and the former CAO, he was removed from his position. I had a lot of faith in him, and I worked with him a lot, on different things during a short time. So I know that yourself, you're in the finance chair here, and maybe some people didn't realize what he did for the city. So I just wanted to state that before I can approve the minutes, and I just want to thank, for the time to be able to discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Drong. Appreciate your comments and reflection on Mr. Meservy's time and duties when he was in the role. All right.
Mr. Chair, just for purpose of our minutes, Councillor Drawn, can you reference we've got 4 sets of minutes in front of us. Can you just reference the minutes that would be a relevant subject matter to for the purposes of our note takers' records here?
Yeah, so I went back and I was looking for it, you know, through the YouTube, and I couldn't find the exact time where the chair had asked about that. So again, I'm not sure, but you know, I know the question was asked, what did he say or what did he do? And
No, that was me. That was you're referring to me in the chamber.
yes.
Yeah. No, I did ask the question. Absolutely.
Yeah, so you know, when I got that, I was a little surprised, and I thought, well, maybe you didn't know, or so then I went home and I thought, well, okay, I'll put this together to see and to inform you what the person did. So you know, that's all it was about. It was just to kind of, you know, a lot of people don't know what he did, so you know, I just did a little background to get it out there of what type of person he was.
Councillor Drawn, but wasn't that in a council meeting? I don't think that was in our finance committee meeting.
Maybe it was in council.
So it's not relevant to the minutes we're approving today.
Well, like I said, I don't know if it was was not?
It was,
A council meeting?
when we talked about the issues.
All right. Well, I thought it was during one of these meetings, so I can't see it being a council meeting, Glass.
Yeah, I remember the comment coming from over here.
Yeah,
So Councillor McAleer would have been sitting here during a regular council meeting. So it's not noted anywhere in these minutes, so I don't think there was a discussion on the former DCAO in this forum. So if you have concerns about how that was presented in the public forum, you should probably refer it to the actual full council meeting when they approve those minutes.
okay, sure. I'll bring it up again Monday.
It was when we discussed the DCAO, BDO. Remember, we didn't discuss all those 11 points here. We moved those to council for discussion.
Yeah, like a special meeting or something, like so one of these, I'm not sure 100%.
Okay, okay, then can we come back? You comfortable, Councillor Drown? Can we come back to the minutes?
Certainly.
So then, item 4, yeah.
I'll move to adopt the minutes.
Are we okay with a mover and a seconder with the approval and adoption of those minutes for those four dates? Thank you. Item 5, new grants bylaw and policy. Anyway, and Manager Finance Betty French is not with us today, and just 1 second. Yeah, our new grants bylaw, kind of what I have in front of me. I know it's been circulated. Everybody have whatever you have in front of you, the hard copy or the electronic version. And I asked Sue to prepare for me or for us for our meeting today the current policy versus the new one here, just to see. And I don't know if and maybe Sue, if we can, do you kind of want to go through this kind of section by kind of section, or are there parts of it that I know just. Or CAO, Eleanor, is there any comments you have on it in terms of?
Maybe if we could highlight.
No.
Thank you to
Sue? Yeah, Sue, do you
Yes,
want to take us through it?
Sure, thank you, Chairman McAleer. Everyone has received the bylaw. As you know, the existing bylaw would be repealed, and this would replace it in its entirety. And the bylaw is just more fulsome as far as aligning with the priorities of the city's strategic plan, reformatting it so that it's more clear on what the exclusions and inclusions are with respect to policy that follow that. And so the key language changes in the bylaw amendments are language around, as I mentioned, it starts right out at 2.1 where it says advances the priorities of the city's strategic plan. So that's key word changing that we've done. And you'll see that throughout the document. The other key amendment you would see is the exclusions section, which is section 5, where it speaks to city-funded programs that are already in our budget. They just don't need to be considered under this bylaw. And they're things like donations, hosting fees, minor sports subsidies, and microgrants. And those are all programs and services that are already in place and don't need to be debated under this bylaw.
Can I just ask for a clarification, Chair, on that? And it's clear, I've read the bylaw, the proposed bylaw, it's good to go through it and look at the changes. But donations and such, do we have criteria for that set aside, or can that be a policy, can that be included in our policy when we get to there? Only because I think that's the stuff that we want to be able to make sure we know what we're given money for.
Exactly, and thank you, Councillor, for that, and through to the chair. When we get to the grant policy, hopefully you'll have a comfort level with the parameters around what's considered acceptable and what isn't, and that will give some further direction on that piece. So just to continue through the document, there's no other significant changes to the document until you get to Schedule A, which speaks to the grant programs, types of programs that are in place. And of course, it's the first one is the grant program to provide discretionary financial or in-kind support. Then there's the grant for taxes, which includes tax incentive strategies, affordable housing incentive programs that are all currently in our corporation now. Rather than having a list of a whole bunch of different types of programs, we put them under those two umbrellas.
Sue, just on 7, I know going through this last night on principles, like 7D, I guess had a question, like it says, council recognizes there may be worthy requests which may not fit within this statement of general principles and guidelines. Nothing in the policy prevents council from making grants at times and for purposes outside the scope of the policy. Does that kind of put us in a situation where you can pretty well entertain anything?
Thank you for that, Mr. Chair. The D was in the previous bylaw as well, so that's not anything we added. It was in the former grants bylaw, and basically what that does is it gives council the opportunity to look at situations that might be extenuating, that isn't in the normal type of delivery that the city would support, but gives council as a whole the opportunity to give a hard look at something that comes in that's unusual. Doesn't mean it's a big pit that you can dump a whole bunch of things into. It just means that sometimes there may be a situation where you do have exceptional circumstances.
Everybody else, Councillor McCabe, Drown, you comfortable with 7D? That's it. All right, go continue, Sue.
Oh, that is my overview of the bylaw. Do you want to just move right on to the policy?
Yes, we can do that unless there's, good, okay, go ahead.
So the policy document looks very different, but it's mostly because it's been completely reformatted. We have a new a template that our staff have found to be very helpful in giving you a better presentation of policy documents. So we're hoping to use this moving forward because it also has related legislation, related bylaws included in the heading. And you'll see that we've basically done a complete overhaul in how it's presented. And we have language in there now around the purpose, around the authority that we have to do this under the MGA. We've added definitions for all of the references that are in the document. We replaced the original scope with actual 3 key objectives that you'll see in 5.0. We've added new guiding principles and processes. We've kept several of them, but we've added new language, of course, as we did in the bylaw around strategic priorities. We added a whole new section on eligibility criteria, and you have A through F of different kinds of criteria that would serve as a guide for reviewing the applications. Then we also have a grant application process that we've added, and application deadlines. There's some of that language was in the previous policy, but very little reference to other items listed there around supporting programs on an ongoing basis and filling out an application, not necessarily guaranteeing that you're going to get money. Funding limits is some of that language is new, but it also speaks to when we're considering grants in kind, and we also reference the grants bylaw in there. We have a reporting section that we didn't have before with making sure that fiscal services keeps accurate records of all the grants and notifies each applicant of the outcome and includes a summary in the annual summary of grants. Some of these things are probably done, but they've never been put to paper with respect to making sure they're included in our actual policy. And so there is a lot of changes to the old grants policy, but it's new and improved. It doesn't change the types of things that we support. It just puts some more meat on the bones and makes it more clear as to what people need to do and what our expectations are as the recipient of these requests.
Chair, I'm just going to, I want to thank you, the staff and Sue for sure, for kind of tidying this up and putting it somewhere where someone can pick it up and follow and understand. And it also provides us with some boundaries around, you know, what money should be given and for what reasons. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor.
And, likewise, Sue, thank you for your good work on this. Hopefully it is a good guiding piece going forward on the grant and grant requests. So, yeah.
I'm going to move, Chair, that we send this on to council for the first reading as well as the resolution to approve the new policy that's been done.
Yep, thank you for that, Councillor McCabe. Seconder, Councillor Drown. Second with Councillor Drown, thank you. So moved. And thank you. Sue, on manager finance for Betty, can you?
So, Mr. Chair, you'll see in the next, I believe it's next on the agenda, the new initiatives. Is that what you want to move to now?
Yeah, I was looking here, item 5, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Report, no. Is there something there that says item 5, new grants bylaw, report F, and then it says page 9 or page 9?
Yes, I believe,
Yeah,
Mr. Chair,
okay.
that
That's
item 5
okay.
has been addressed
Yeah,
fully
okay.
by moving it on to council.
Yeah.
And so I believe that we're now looking at those new grant requests.
Okay. So, yeah, on 19. So moving on to new grant requests for the city this year, operating budget. We have the list. You have it there.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have a complete listing of all of the initiatives that have come forward through departments, and I'll give you a hard copy of that.
Yeah. So, and this is where we're going. Yeah. So the list that we have for new requests this year, we're just kind of going from the top. The Vessel Artist Studios. There's a request there for $2,500, and the recommendation is to go. The recommendation for the council is for $2,500 to be approved. We okay with that at the committee level? Councillor Drown, Councillor McCabe. And then the second, the National Youth Orchestra, Charlottetown visit. There was a request for $8,000, and there's a recommendation to give this group $2,500. We okay with that? So move, it's Councillor Drong and seconded by Councillor McCabe. We're fine with that. Go to council. And then the Guild, one-time operational grant increase of $25,000 was the request. The recommendation from the committee to go to council is for $4,840.
Is this just a one-time over and above the grant they already receive? Okay.
Yeah. And okay with that, Councillor Drown? Yes. And then there was a request for the Island Theatre Festival per year for 3 years. They were requesting $30,000 a year for 3 years, and that the recommendation is no to that request, which will be recommended, goes on to council. We okay with that? Councillor McCabe, Councillor Drown. Then the Michael Pendergast, Cayley in the Park, there was a request for $10,000, and the Finance Committee is recommending no to that. And then the Benevolent Irish Society 200-year anniversary, $5,000 request, which we're recommending no to that. And then Blooming House, there's a request from Blooming House for $75,000, and the recommendation coming from Finance to go to Council is for $50,000 allocation to Blooming House. The Charlottetown Area Development Corporation capital contribution, Queens Wharf, Big Red Numbers site. Needs some there's some improvement going on that location, and there's a $10,000 request for the city to be part of, and the city recommendation Finance Committee is to approve that. And then Tremploy, there's a request from Tremploy, $10,000 a year for 5 years. Starting this year, and the Finance Committee is recommending we approve that. And then there's a request, Confederation Center of the Arts, per year. They requested per year $1 million per year for 5 years, for a $5 million request, I guess, over 5 years. The Finance Committee is recommending that Council allocate $200K to the Confederation Center project for this year, and look at it other years going forward on a perhaps year by year basis, possibly. Charlottetown Library, requesting 500,000 for a year for the next 2 years, and that has been declined. And the Port Charlottetown in lieu of taxes, they made a request for 119,000, and there's a recommendation from the Finance Committee here for 27,000 a year in lieu of taxes. And that concludes the allocation of the Finance Committee's recommendations to Council versus the request. Any other, Councillor Drown?
I understand, you know, we're putting all this up to council to make a decision. I'd like to see that drop to 100,000, but you know, I just want to state it. I'd be comfortable with 100,000, but if you want to just put the 200 to get it up to council to discuss it up there, I'm fine with that too. But I find that's a lot, right? So.
Thank you, Councillor Drown. Councillor McCabe?
And I think it is important to note that we did, that the recommendation will be that we'll look at yearly. A lot of these requests are coming in for every year, you know, for the next 3 years, for the next 5 years. I think we agreed to employ 5-year commitment, or we're recommending, based on the presentation that council received. But it's important to note that, and as well that they will tie into our new policies and bylaws. So when we're saying we're not recommending, it's not that we don't think the projects are great ideas, it's just that they don't fit what our current bylaw and new policy are going to bring.
And budget. I think, just to repeat what you said, Councillor McCabe, these are, I guess, not to be understood, I guess, as annual things, but that's what the allocations and commitments are for this year, 23-24 operating budget. All right.
We need to move probably to have these go on to council for further discussion and a final approval, so I'll move that.
So moved. Thank you, Councillor McCabe. Seconder, Councillor Drown, thank you. All right. Number 7, monthly financial statements. I know Betty's out sick, I understand. So Sue, is there anything there you have for us?
Mr. Chair, what I would suggest you do with respect to financial statements, I don't feel as though I'm the appropriate person to be responding to specific questions on financials. So if any of the members of the standing committee have specific questions on financials, I would encourage them to email our manager. And then as soon as she comes back, she can speak to whatever items they want addressed.
Is the committee comfortable with that? Okay. Thank you. That's what we'll do. Item 8, open tenders, RFPs, RFQs. Again, where are we with that, Sue? Is that...
I would have to check, Mr. Chair, to see what the context was for that. What page are you on?
116.
Oh, okay.
All the tenders have already been posted, and they're just open, waiting to close by the looks of it. Is that what I'm reading?
Yeah. Anyway.
Yes, this is just for information purposes, Mr. Chair, with respect to where we're at with all of our RFQs and RFPs, and of course there'll be a lot more rolling out in the coming months. But that just sort of gives you the current state of the union as far as what's on our website.
And is there any question or anything from the committee on that update? Or all right.
Before we close, though, Chair, I'm assuming the procurement bylaw will be coming our way not too long, probably our next couple meetings. Okay, or a discussion. We can have more when Betty's back.
I can certainly, through to the chair, check with our manager as soon as she returns to see what the exact timelines are on that, but I know that it's definitely a work in progress right now.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to adjournment. Motion to adjourn. So moved. Second, Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Durant. Thank you. Thank you, guys.